Did Jesus call his disciples to disarm? That's the question in this episode.
Political?
Biblical. What's up, Jesus Party? Michael here. Today we'll be exploring what did Jesus say about owning a weapon. What? Jesus talked about owning a weapon? Yeah. So, on the left side we have Rev Rob Shank that says Christians shouldn't own a gun for self-defense.
How can evangelicals be pro-life and pro-gun? Who will ultimately save us? Christ or a Glock?
And on the right hand there is Ken Pagano, who believes owning a gun is a God-given right.
We can be a Christian, a lover of God, but also have an appreciation as Americans for the right to keep and bear arms.
But what did Jesus say and teach in Scripture? Let's see. Luke 22:36, he said to them, "But now if you have a purse, take it, and also a bag. And if you don't have a sword, sell your cloak and buy one."
Hold your peace and let the Lord fight your battle.
Then in Matthew he says, "Put away your sword," Jesus told him. "Those who use the sword will die by the sword."
Why?
Because it's not nice.
Why?
Forgive him, Father. He's a robot from the future.
So what's going on here? In one instant, it seems Jesus is telling his disciples to get weapons to defend themselves. And then in the other instance, it seems Jesus is telling his disciples not to use their weapons. Well, first off, in Matthew, that disciple is trying to defend Jesus by violent means. But Jesus didn't need defense. He said, "Don't you realize that I could ask my Father for thousands of angels to protect us, and he would send them instantly? But if I did, how would the scriptures be fulfilled to describe what must happen now?" Matthew 26:53. Jesus realized he came to die for the sins of man. But what did Jesus mean by those who use a sword will die by the sword? Does this mean we shouldn't use weapons for self-defense? Looking at the scripture in context, it appears the disciples were outnumbered. In this context, if they would have fought with their swords, they would have most likely been killed by the swords of trained men. Jesus, in his wisdom, knowing he had to die in the first place, commanded his disciples to stand down.
Why?
Because there was a bigger war to be won here. And if this small skirmish turned into a bloodbath, it would have distracted Jesus from his mission. With the recent tragedies in Parkland, Florida, the debate about guns has come up again. Some blame guns for the existence of violence, but violence has always been happening since the days of Cain and Abel. Cain killed his own brother because he was envious. Of course, we don't want guns in the hands of the wrong people, and sometimes the government are those wrong people. That's why the Second Amendment was created and gives us the right to start a militia if the government strays away from the Constitution. So, did Jesus teach us to disarm? No.
It's like a bullet shut up in my gun. What? Thank you.
If he did, the disciples would not have owned swords in the first place. But scriptures do show us that we aren't supposed to be fighting a violent holy war to defend Jesus, because Jesus could call down all of heaven and destroy those who oppose him. According to Romans 13, we have a responsibility to protect the innocent and those God has entrusted in our care. Whether you decide to own a gun or not is your choice, but the bigger question is, who owns your heart? Because death comes to us all, then judgment. But thank God for Jesus, because if he owns our heart, we will live forever.